Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Bryan. We're going to wrap up today with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. Today's special selection comes at us from Chase. This is a song by a solo artist who has created a unique and instantly recognizable sound across genre barriers. I'm not sure you'll love it, but I hope you're very open-minded. But I know you're very open-minded. Hope you enjoy. So we're going to be checking out Dynamo from Puppet. This comes off of a single. Well, this is a single from 2017. I have heard something off of their 2020 album. We listened to Whirlwind Summer, I think it was, on live stream a while back. And I checked out their 2022 album. I forgot what that one was called. New York Family. I'm pretty sure I checked that out in its release year because of the live stream track that we heard. So I'm a little familiar with Puppet's work, and I'm excited to get into this and check out what they were doing in 2017, which predates anything I've heard from them thus far. Let's dive into it. Dynamo from Puppet. Kicking off to a good start already. Going for the full four. Here we go. There's the drop. I love the way the two melody lines work together at the top. That's nice. There's delayed gratification, not emphasizing beat one there. Yeah, the heavy snare usage there at the end to increase the intensity it's iconic for pop punk, which is, what this is at its core. This is what I was fully expecting from Puppet. It's well, interestingly, it leans a bit more on the electronic side than I think I was expecting given his later works, but it is still what I expect. It's pop punk through an electronic lens. Almost in the same vein that Rez is doing the same thing for pop emo right now with It's Not a Phase, which was a fantastic album and y'all should check it out. It's on my that up there. It's it was a blast. So yeah, we have a pop punk track. We have the composition of it. We have the flow and pacing of one. We have the melodic writing. We have the right chords for it. If you swapped out all these electronic sounds and put an acoustic drum kit in there with a couple electric guitars and an electric bass and made them play the same thing that was here musically and then just took the vocal stem and put it on top of that, you would have a pop punk anthem right here. It perfectly follows it. It's just that he chose to utilize the instrumentation of electronic music rather than a rock band. And he does it so well. And part of the reason why it's done so well is because of the instrument choice. I began to, I don't remember if I actually said this or if it was just in my head. But there at the end, about, I guess about 30 or 40 seconds to go, it was building up into the final chorus. And we primarily had, it was super compressed, a bit fuzzy and small. We had these high pitched synth tones. Bump ba dump bump ba dump. That melody that we've heard over and over, that riff in here. And it really stood out to me as not being too dissimilar from an electric guitar, especially the tones and voicings that pop punk guitarists would use. A lot of high end, a lot of clarity. The only difference is that this has a stronger percussive hit in it, more so than you would find in picking a string on a guitar, which has its own percussive component to the way that notes begin on a guitar as well. But here it sounded more percussive, something along the lines of like a glockenspiel. Something metallic is really at the root of this tone, and then it branches out into a sound that feels not too dissimilar from a guitar. I'm kind of curious how long it took him to find this sound, or if he even utilizes it in other songs. It perfectly matches the aesthetic here. It's quite obviously a digital sound, but it embodies so much of the right characteristics, the tone, the reverb, the slight bit of distortion, the length that it hovers, how far it reverberates out before dissipating entirely. It feels very guitar-like without obviously being a guitar. Like I said, there's still strong components of the core initial strike of the note. It's just not a guitar in any way, shape, or form. And it's that little thing right there, that attention to detail, to pick a sound that matches his specific feelings and stylings while still adhering to the shapes of rock. Now, the other thing that I really like sort of bounces off of that concept right there of being inspired by one genre of music but making it in another is that we certainly have the sections of a pop punk track in here. We have the small, sparsely layered, hyper compressed opening that lends itself to expanding out to the opening riff that takes us into our opening verse and having that punch of having the compression open up and expand into the full sound sphere. Very, very pop punk thing to do. It happens in so many popular songs from that genre. And it's done here. That takes us into the verse, which we have the two synth lines kind of giving us this beautiful combined, technically a hocket, I suppose. They're two distinct ideas that I hear them together as one combined guitar line, so to speak. Into the halftime power of the chorus, we have the bridge taking things down a little bit into our final chorus that brings the intensity back up. Like it fits all the parts that I would expect from a pop punk track, but it doesn't follow the structure. This feels a bit more linear. I felt the verse, I felt the chorus. We had something that I would probably attribute to a verse 2, but it was different musically in about every way. It explored a different trope of pop punk writing. That took us into the bridge. The bridge felt like two different sections entirely, and that took us to the outro chorus, which was a variation on our first chorus. The idea that I get from this is that the inspiration is there of the general sounds and atmospheres that his inspirations have crafted, but he wasn't interested in following the blueprint. And so, much like how with the tone of the lead melody instrument, he took inspiration from and then modified it to fit his needs, the structure of the track is done the same way. Every single one of these sections I feel a strong nostalgia for. But the framework of the song doesn't fit the typical ABABCB pattern. It explores its own way through, and I really love that concept right there. It's something that I feel is explored throughout most of his works, where he wears his inspirations on his sleeve but is not bound to them, not bound to the ways that the music that inspires him was created. And I think this is a really strong track to showcase that. There are highs and lows throughout here as far as volume and dynamics and intensity and even emotionally, given the chord progressions that we have. And it crafts a really neat story through the track. I don't know what the story is. I haven't hit the lyrics, and honestly, the song feels too nostalgic for me to really dive into some of the intricate elements of it. I need another listen, kind of pulling myself away, because yeah, this whole time I've been talking about how it relates to pop punk. It's one of those genres, much like post-hardcore and pop emo, that I listen to a lot. It's a genre that is difficult for me to appreciate on a critical lens or even critically engage with on a first-time listen, because my casual brain says, dude, this is good. And it's like, I'm checking into this. It's one of the reasons why I do like more challenging music on the channel, because there's a higher chance of me not casually enjoying it and sticking with the critical framework when I listen to it. I think those make for better analyses. But I know some people just like to see me enjoying music, and that's where I sat with a lot of this. Um, but yeah, there is a flow. There is a pacing to the entire thing that's built upon all the dynamic qualities that we have from section to section that pulls us from the beginning to the end while exploring these familiar sounds. It's sort of like a supercut of a bunch of pop punky anthemic feels. And I think that's really cool to see so many spectrums of what he's been influenced by and presenting them in a way that isn't just a pure reflection of them, but an adaptation of how they've influenced him and his specific taste in music writing, and how it all comes together to something that is, it's derived from the past, but looking towards the future. It's steeped in nostalgia and familiarity, but is still something that sounds fresh to my ears. It's that realm of borrowing from the past to create something for the future, and I think Puppet is doing a really great job of accomplishing that. The other thing I want to point out is this is not typically something I talk about in a reaction, but his vocals have grown so much. The distance between this release and his latest is like 4 years, 5 years, something like that. This is 2017, and his latest album was 2022. So there's somewhere between 4 and 5 years there. And I think, did he just put a single out last year too? Yeah, Bittersweet Symphony. Is that a cover? That came out December 13th. That completely flew under my radar. The only reason I knew is because I saw it in Spotify when I was queuing this track up. Okay, so I'm gonna have to check that out later. But anyways, in the few years between Dynamo and New York Family, is that what it's called? Yeah. I'd say his vocal abilities have grown quite a bit, and I think that's awesome. They're not bad in Dynamo at all, but they do feel a bit timid and pushed down in the production, which to me feels like he's a little less confident in displaying them. Whereas in New York Family, from what I remember about it, they were rather prominent. They were very powerful and very reminiscent of pop punk vocals. Not that they weren't reminiscent here, they just, again, they're pushed down into the mix a bit more than I would expect. And I think that just over the years, it feels like he's become more confident with his vocals. And I think that is awesome. All right, let me hit some lyrics and then we're going to wrap this one up. Funny enough, as I had mentioned that the structure was dynamic, it completely went under my radar that the song is called Dynamo. I don't know if that is purposeful or not. But it is about, as a lot of pop punk is, relationships. It is about being dumped, moving on with your life, and trying to be better about it. It's not just about that, though that does seem to be what the first verse is very clearly about. But the chorus says, I'm a dynamo, you can't stop me now. I don't need saving because I'm not waiting. They'll hear me say I'm a dynamo, you can't stop me now. It's about pushing forward, regardless of the mistakes of the past. The verses look at some of those mistakes. It looks at just the problems of growing up. He says, verse 1, as I mentioned, it's about a end of a relationship. Looking back, pretty view, not a glimpse of you. Confidence, a little common sense while everything's brand new. It's about having a new perspective on life now that somebody else isn't in it. It says, growing up, screwing up, haven't got a clue. Simple questions, know what's best, but why is the sky so blue? Coming back to the relationship, you lie, I lie, our story can't be further from the truth. This wasted time, blindly living life is the curse of youth. I like that line. It's, I feel like it's not wrong for a lot of people. Living life blindly it's a double-edged sword. Youth allows you, in your youth, you're allowed to do and make a lot of mistakes. That can certainly affect you going forward, sort of like a domino effect. But at the moment, you really don't notice them. The immediate repercussions are not as evident as they are further down the line. He says, I've made mistakes though. Growing up won't make me less see-through. So, I'm not going to be less transparent. I'm still going to show everyone who I am. And we wrap up the verse with, I hope I get back everything I gave to you. Bringing back the whole idea of the lost relationship. Coming back to the chorus and says, I'm stronger now. Interestingly, from here we reach an interlude, which is, I told you, had a musical shift going on here. I didn't catch that the lyrics were actually just the chorus again. Don't need saving because I'm not waiting, they'll hear me saying. And then we come back to the chorus, I'm a dynamo. So we actually have verse, chorus, interlude, which is a musical idea because lyrically we're not exploring anything new. This did feel a bit shorter to me, but not as short as just 3 lines. We come back into the chorus again and then hit a verse 2, what I felt was the bridge. And I think that's why I felt that the bridge was actually in two sections because there is the verse here, but then there is a musical, instrumental dedicated section that functions more of a verse before coming into our final chorus. It still does function along the bass lines then of verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, but there are a couple of twists and turns thrown in there to spice it up a little bit beyond that. On paper, though, when you read out the lyrics, it looks very close to that blueprint structure. Verse 2 just talks about kind of running around, going in circles, ready to move on, coming back into the chorus to finish the track up. So, yeah, it's a song about having been hurt and ready to take a step forward, to get past it, to move on with life, to learn from the mistakes, to grow stronger from it, and keep pushing forward. I don't know that the music itself necessarily leans too much in that, besides the song moving from highs versus lows, these big anthemic moments followed by dips. Kind of follows the idea of making mistakes, stumbling, getting back up, and getting stronger kind of vibe. But it's also just such a pop punk song lyrically that it fits with the genre tropes in the composition as well. It feels like they go together because they have gone together for so long. One thing I do want to note is that this is 2017. I'm kind of curious when this whole thing started. Was Puppet at the forefront of this? Um, because this is a common thing to do nowadays. Pop punk and pop emo are definitely finding a resurgence in the electronic scene in the last few years, but 2017, at least to me, feels like it predates some of the big names going in this direction. And yeah, if anybody has insight in any of that, I mean, as usual, I tend to see the trends when they hit the mainstream. When it comes to popular music, I'm not on the fringe of pop music to see where the trends start. 2017 feels early to me though, but maybe somebody's got the info on that. Let me know. Yeah, that wraps this one up then. That's a Puppet Dynamo. Let me know what you thought of that track. If anything stood out to you, anything you'd like to add on to what I said or correct me on, give me your own perspectives or opinions on. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree in there. It takes you to this menu right here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, and links to the Discord server. That's the other one. All right. I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.